I'm going to just kick it off with a video to set the stage since you are in Vegas. Welcome to Vegas. How's it been so far? You haven't seen anything other than this building? Okay, good. So let's roll the video.
We are the people of MGM. We are the creators of the spectacle. We are the ones who make them laugh, make them cry. We don't all live in the spotlight, but none of us live in the background. We are magicians, artists, performers, and illusionists. We raise the bar while standing behind it. We have one mission: to entertain the human race. This is our stage. The audience is waiting. We are the entertainers. We are the show.
Okay, you can clap, you can get excited. I've seen that video probably 100 times and it still gets me excited. So how many first-timers to Vegas? All right, well, I think we gave you 100 ideas of things you can do. But, I showed you that video because that's actually the end result of a lot of hard work and a really strong partnership between the business, the marketing organization, and the whole HR function, where learning and development played a really critical role. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that journey. It's not over, but it started with the problem statement of the fact that MGM Resorts over 25 years had grown out of acquisition, which is not different from many companies. But through the acquisitions and growth, MGM Resorts really wasn't a brand that people knew. How many people knew that we had 27 brands and properties around the world? And that on the Strip that we own in Las Vegas, over 12 properties within 3 miles. So that was an issue for us. So we had to go out and really help the world understand, again, who we are. And while we were doing that, we've created an entertainment company. That we are not a gaming company, that we are not a hotel company, but we are an entertainment company. Who comes to Vegas to be bored? Right? Or Borgata in New Jersey, or National Harbor. Nobody comes to those destinations with everything that we have to offer to be bored. So that was really the business driver behind everything that we're doing. So the first question that came up as we started this was, what's culture? How do you create a brand on the external side? We were investing millions of dollars in marketing. But then when you come into the property, what's that experience with your employees? What's the engagement that your employees are going to deliver? So how do you really create the right culture that delivers against the brand promise? Because if you see that video, and there's been a huge commercial and everything that's been going out, you come on property, you want to be wowed, right? So that was kind of the work that we had to undertake. So when you look at culture, first question was, in our organization, the leaders debated, what is culture? And then the next question was, who owns culture? So what would you say? As leaders in the organization, what would you say? Who owns culture? What is culture? Who in this room is a leader? Hopefully all of you raised your hands or stood up, right? You're all leaders. Well, what we came to decide and align on is leaders own the culture. It is not something that HR does. We create processes, we create tools, we help support it, but leaders own culture. That was a very new concept. That is not the way that we've operated. And when you talk about culture, we define it as the shared stories that people tell. The employees tell. When you ask the question, what is it like to work here at MGM Resorts? What were the answers to that question? And who creates that experience for the employees who are answering that question? So that is what we talked about. When you think about leaders, if you say and believe at this point that leaders drive, lead, enhance organizational culture that impacts every employee and in your company, how do we set leaders up for success? Do we do a great job on onboarding leaders, whether it's new to their role or new to the organization? How many of you would say that the last time you were onboarded, you fell into that sink category, right? We throw people in. We expect people to just kind of understand the norms and the culture and how things get done. How do we really kind of build that capacity for us to really prepare people so they're set up for success? And when you think about it, how many leaders who may have not done well in their roles failed or derailed because they weren't able to execute on the technical aspects of their job? How many would you say fall into that category? Very few. The majority of leaders that end up not, thriving or being successful is because of the culture, an organizational fit. So just really quick, everyone in the room seems to like stats and numbers. I think LD people get very analytical, right? Well, why do we care? Because especially at a leadership level, how much time, energy, and resources do you spend recruiting and training and developing and trying to get them set up for success? There's lots of data around it. It can go from $25,000 to $50,000 to a 1-year salary. And those estimates could be low when you think about the damage of a poor hire or the reputational risk or whatever you might be encountering. So the point here is just it's really important. The more we spend time defining what our culture is, recruiting the right person, but more importantly, setting them up for success and how you bring into the organization. So a big part of our journey that we started in 2016 as we got ready to launch this big marketing campaign was how do we really define the role of a leader? So defining success. When you onboard leaders, couple things. Be super clear on priorities and outcomes in terms of the culture. But really, how do you build those relationships and navigate the culture? So those were a couple things that when we talked about leadership that we had to do. Obviously, it's got to be integrated into everything you do in HR because it has to feed all of the processes and it has to be consistent. So what did we do? We, for the first time in 25 years across MGM resorts, we launched a leadership summit. It was a time for us to bring all of our leaders across the organization. Anyone that led people was how we defined it. And it was the first time that we told our leaders of people that it was an expectation they actually lead people. Right? You don't just lead tasks. People aren't managed by checklists. That you actually need to lead and engage, and we defined what that meant. So it was really about how do we create that brand promise. It was a big welcome to the show campaign, and we wanted to make sure that when we said welcome to the show, it wasn't the 4-letter word show, right? That it was the wow show. So we were very intentional about that. Clear expectations and to drive accountability. At the end of the day, our culture at the end was we wanted consistency at the properties. When you went to a Bellagio or an Aria or a Borgata, you were having a similar experience. So here's what we did. 9,000 leaders of people we have at MGM Resorts. 16 different properties at the time, but we're still growing. So this is kind of the gift that keeps giving. A couple of us say that, because when we created this, we were super excited, and then every time we think we're done, we're not, because there's another property that we're onboarding. But it was a huge commitment. We had Jim Murren, and I think the next picture, Jim Murren at every single one of these sessions to kick it off. He talked about his vision, the reason why now, and how critical it was for us to create a consistent culture. And and it was impactful. Some of these properties that are in the regions that are not in Vegas don't see him that often. So we had a cross-functional team of leaders that went out to facilitate these sessions. I'm going to go back one slide just to talk a little bit about what was in it. It was a full-day program. It was kind of like a conference like this. And really, when we were putting it together, we had a great discussion as an organization that our properties, Mandalay Bay, Bellagio, Aria, we are known for putting on great events. But when it came to our own people, we really didn't do that. And we had the luxury of space at every one of our properties. We didn't have to deal with, finding convention space. We owned it. So we put together a conference for our leaders and gave them lanyards and bags and really made them feel special so that when we brought them in and we said, this is our expectation, they felt and knew that this was something new and different. One of the most impactful sessions, and we had breakout sessions, so we had a keynote with Jim, and then we did breakouts, and then we brought them back together. One of the most important breakout sessions, I think, was what we called defining moments. The message there was very, very clear, that as leaders, it's the small actions that have a huge impact that create the culture. So in your roles, your opportunity, you have thousands of opportunities every day to have a small interaction that can have a huge impact. So we really start to level set how your behaviors shape the culture of the company. We went through our leadership expectations. Everyone's got them competencies. You've got some model, right? So we went through that, made sure that everyone understood what they were. And then really how to demonstrate show, which was our branding around our guest experience. So that was the session. Then we cascaded it to all employees, all 70,000 plus employees, in terms of how show and creating the wow moments was going to be presented to the guests. So show stood for smile and greet, hear their story, own the experience, and wow them. So that was our consistent guest experience message that we tied into it. And here's Jim again. And then really, the summit always feels great. Just like when you come here, you all feel great for a couple days. It's really energizing. You had some great learning, had some great networking opportunities. The question is, so what? Right? What do you do after? So we were very clear around how do we integrate this back again, that it had to be fully integrated in everything we do in HR. So we had the learning and development kind of work stream. How do we continually reinforce? What are we going to build on the curriculum that we had from a leadership perspective? And how do we then really make sure that we onboard new managers to the organization? Communication and signage. When you walk on property, we want people to feel that same level of excitement and make sure that show is a constant reminder. And then again, how do we continue to reinforce and recognize? So we launched a new recognition platform aligned to this whole launch of the Leadership Summit as well. And introduced several other talent management processes around upward feedback, the employee survey, integrated into the talent management process, et cetera. So, and this is just a couple of the examples. The Leadership Playbook was a follow-up that we sent out on a monthly basis that reinforced the messages and the behaviors. So we broke down show as a reminder. We touched on the defining moments, leading the show, and the other learning points. And we gave activities, we gave additional resources, and we followed up with leaders on what they were doing every month to engage in the discussion with their employees. Internal communications, like I said, we did a full rebranding of all of our communications and tied those messages into them. We had Show TV, where we did segments where we recognized leaders who were demonstrating the behaviors well to continue to reinforce the message. This was the career website and the whole rebranding of the website. And I mentioned the recognition platform already. So with that, at the time, and I think some of these stats were taken probably in the 2018 timeframe, but we saw over a 17-month period an increase in our stock price, staff friendliness, when you look at our guest experience scores, and our employee pride in the organization is through the charts consistently anyway. But I think through all of that, we got a lot of energy and positive momentum around where we were going as an organization, as a brand, and an opportunity to really celebrate the growth. I think especially for those employees that live in Vegas, to see T-Mobile, the Golden Knights, and everything that's brought to the city, and during a difficult time, able to really get everybody galvanized around the culture. So those were some of the results. I would just close with a couple keys to our success. I think that the more HR and L&D in particular, but this is also true for the HR function, we have to be aligned to the business priority. Putting together great programs is great. And I know there's a lot of people that like to, get into their little, this is really a cool, phone app, this, that, and there's all these great learning techniques or what have you. But if it's not a business priority, it's not going to get the traction that you want, right? So I think we were really successful with what we did with the Leadership Summit and all the subsequent classes and workshops and reinforcement tools, because it was aligned to the priority of the business. The other thing that we did when we led the Leadership Summit, and we still do it today in a lot of the core curriculum for in-person training, it was leader-led. It wasn't a bunch of trainers standing up. The leaders standing up in front of the room, talking about their experience as leaders and the impact that they've had when other leaders took action on their careers and how they've translated that into their leadership, huge impact. The stories that we were able to share and tell through that kind of a session was far more impactful than having really super skilled facilitators up in the room. Now, we didn't just throw leaders up there because that is a little risky. So we were very clear about the role they played. So we did have facilitators doing the session, but really the role of the leaders was to tell the stories and to really accentuate the learning points, which I think was really a home run. It was an integrated approach. We had marketing, communications, we had all of the brand teams, it was the guest experience teams. It was integrated in how we thought of the concepts, delivered it, and then continued to enhance it. The accountability is huge. The learning journey, and to that point, it's a journey. And we really made it clear that going to the summit or one of the classes was not really the destination, right? It's a journey. That our leaders, we want to make sure that we onboard people and that we continue to develop a path where you can continue to develop your careers and your learning path no matter what level in the organization you're in. So that's really our story. It's been a great, it's been a fun time. A lot of work to come up with that wow video, but really I think brings it all together as to why we thought it was critical to come up with an integrated strategy around our employee development and leaders setting the stage.